I think I really just need to start today by just recognising the work, energy and enthusiasm that has gone into career pathways. These are the types of programmes that really do shape society, and it really makes my job easier as an advocate for change. Careers is funny. You know, they're introduced to us at a very, very early age, and they kind of form our identity moving forward in our lives. You know, it helps us, you know, make our friends, possibly, you know, your future partner. It forms who we are, what we're going to do, and who we're going to be moving forward. So think back when you were really small. Maybe you were 6, maybe you were 7. I was 4 when I was first asked what I wanted to be. 4 years old. I wanted to eat chocolate. I didn't care about what my career was going to be. But like every small child, it's incredible. Children have this uniqueness and this sense of possibility and opportunity. You can do anything, be anyone, anything you want is possible. There are no barriers. It's extraordinary. And going through our lives, sometimes we lose that. When I was small, I wanted to be anything from an astronaut to a scientist, an adventurer. Anything was possible. And I specialise on this. This had come after years of getting smacked in the face with football. My football coach was being goals. And just really not being able to see very well and not really understanding what was going on. Disability wasn't in our family. You know, we'd no reason to understand it or think about it. And it was on that day, a lovely man by the name of Aidan Murray, with beautiful silver hair and a very heartwarming smile, turned to my parents and he said it so calmly and so softly. He simply said, Amie is legally blind, she has 6-foot vision and she's going to go fully blind. And like that, my dreams and my hopes smashed across the floor, and I didn't know how to pick them up. I didn't think anyone would ever want to employ me. I didn't think anything was possible anymore. Until I took a step back. Aidan Murray had said I had 6-foot vision. There was loads. So I clung on to my 6-foot vision and I went, no one needs to know. Like, I won't be different, I won't have that label. No one will ever know, and I will be perfect, and I can do anything and be anyone I want to be. So I ploughed on and I went to secondary school, and I went to a fantastic secondary school in Dingle called Shida. And the teachers were great, you know, they were indulging my little fantasy that, you know, I could see and that nothing was an issue. And I was on the basketball team and got smacked in the face, and I was on the debate team, and, you know, I would look down at the podium to read my notes and realise I couldn't actually see them. And I was really starting to struggle. I was having a really tough time. And my extraordinary principal, Bandy Murphy, for those of you who don't speak Irish, that's Miss Murphy. She was just such a wonderful lady, and you know, she was indulging my little fantasy of Amie can be perfect and we'll just let her go through life. But when she really recognised that I was struggling, she decided she had to do something, because she knew that I had more potential and ability than I had ever even thought about. I was so focused on fighting the disabled label that I couldn't even really get through school. If I wasn't going to get through school, I certainly wasn't going to go to college. If I wasn't going to go to college, it was going to be that bit more difficult as a person with a disability to actually get employment. So Bandy Murphy had heard about this incredible young lady from Dublin who was also legally blind and had just come back from India after trekking across southern India on the back of an elephant, as we do. That person has since become what I'm going to call my fairy godmother and my best friend in the entire world. That was Caroline Casey. And she did that trip when she eventually came out of the disability closet, and she really didn't know what to do or who she was going to be. So she did what she wanted to. She decided to become Mowgli. So Caroline was going to come to our school, and we were all super excited. It meant we had an hour of classes. Perfect. I remember walking into the room that day feeling so self-conscious, because I knew Caroline was there to try and get me to accept my disability and to embrace, you know, these wonderful things that it made me special at. And she was great, and she delivered an excellent speech, and someday I hope to deliver something similar to her. But she was phenomenal, and she makes you think, and everyone in Kanchi, and we're lucky enough to have great business partners, they make you think and believe that anything is possible, because they're doing it, they're out there changing the world. Steve Jobs said before, society is there to be shaped. And I really do believe that, and that is something that Caroline left me with all those years ago. So while I still wasn't willing to actually accept that I had a disability, you know, clinging onto that 6-foot vision, you know, no one ever really had to know. 6 foot. Imagine what you can do with 6 foot vision. Doesn't sound like a lot, but God, I could do anything. So I started thinking about my career, because I knew my eyes were going to get worse and I wanted to, you know, zip up my career, and if I got in there early, I could prove to people how great I was and how valuable I was, and they'd want to keep me forever. Or so I thought. So I'm thinking about my career, and I'm going to school, and, you know, endless possibilities. I was still clinging on to that childhood dream of anything is possible. So one day I woke up and I decided, you know what? I'm going to be a model. That was it. I was going to be a model, completely forgetting that my eyes could never focus on the camera. So I went off and I did a portfolio for a friend of mine. Then I was introduced to a Manhattan fashion photographer, and it was amazing. And I sat down in school and I turned to my friends and I said, going to be a model. And there was a silence, because everyone knew that I couldn't see the camera. And we went down to supper then because the bell rang and I was stuffing my face because of the food. Most boarding school teachers, the food isn't great, and gosh, you know, it was amazing. And I was stuffing my face and I realised, geez, I don't really fancy being home for the rest of my life. So scrap that. And then I moved straight onto something that I loved, and that was traditional Irish music. For as long as I can remember, I played the concertina. It's a little kind of box, like the mini accordion basically. And I played it since I was really young, so I went from modelling to I'm going to be a musician. The same enthusiasm and the same can-do attitude. And it's extraordinary. When you're visually impaired, people think that you are going to be an absolute genius at music. You can't see, so your hearing must be amazing. You know? And the reality was, I was good, but I wasn't great. And I had to work hard, and that was what I was going to do. And it wasn't until I met Mike Deneen O'Shea, I'm sure some of you know him from your Leaving Cert days, I think on Twitter. I had the pleasure of playing music with him once. And he was the first person to ever look past my disability when it came to music. And he went, you know what, you're good, but you could be great. He was like, you don't have a good ear, but you have passion and you can do it. He didn't see the little blind girl who wanted to be a musician. He simply saw someone who loved music and went, your disability doesn't matter here, you can do anything. And then the CEO form came. So we threw out music again, we started looking at careers and what can I do and what can I be. So I toyed with engineering for a while, and Knoshida was originally a training school for primary school teachers, so it was almost a requirement that you considered becoming a primary school teacher. And I kind of thought about it and I thought, you know what, not big on kids, maybe shouldn't do that. And then I thought about law, and then I thought about various different things, music, art, fashion, everything. And eventually I settled on something I loved. And I headed off to UL and I did my media in English, and turning into the gates that day, you know, we've all had that experience. We all know that feeling when you're turning into college and this is where your life begins and you're independent and you can be anyone and do anything. I know I keep repeating that, but that sense of possibility, we really shouldn't lose it. So when I went to college, I twigged, no one knows me here. I don't have to tell them I'm disabled, I can be perfect. So off I went again on my perfect little rampage, that I can do everything, be everything, I will be perfect, I do not need to ask for help, because whether you're disabled or not, we all have trouble asking for help. And it's something that we do need to move past in our lives, because we will not get anywhere if we're too afraid to turn to the person beside us and go, you know what, can you give me a hand? But I spent the first semester in college not asking for help and really struggling. I couldn't find my books in the bookstore. When I did find them, I didn't have the technology to read them. I used to skulk around college very late on Sunday night trying to find my rooms, because the writing is tiny on those rooms. So I'm not sure what they're like here in Trinity, but in UL, they were really small. You have to put your nose up against it. And my friends thought I was insane. They'd see me hopping from building to building late on a Sunday evening when most of the buildings were closed. And I was failing in college. And that is the truth, and there is no point saying anything else. I was failing because I couldn't ask for help. So I plucked up the courage one day because I do not want to fail. No one ever wants to fail, and I certainly never wanted to fail. And I was studying something I loved. I was studying English. So I went into the disability service and I simply said, I can't see and I need help. And they were amazing. And they gave me this assistive technology that really helped. You know, I was able to find my books, read them, do assignments, engage with the class, and it was phenomenal. So I plowed on and I did journalism, and I loved it, and I studied with some of the greatest journalists I'll probably ever meet. And then around January, you know, it's about that time when you start thinking about your career again, you're coming towards the end of your college career. So I started applying for jobs. Did up my CV and just started applying for jobs. Anything would do. I just wanted to get on that ladder while my eyes were still good enough. So I applied for marketing jobs, sales jobs, communications jobs, journalism jobs. You name it, I applied. My CV wasn't landing anywhere. And I couldn't figure it out. So eventually had to ask for help again and did a CV writing workshop, and then I started getting called for interviews. And this is where the fun started, because I didn't disclose. And sometimes my eyes, when I'm nervous, they can go anywhere or do whatever they want, so I can't really control them. So at most interviews, the person sitting opposite me was kind of doing this head bob thing to try and get eye contact with me, and it was really awkward. So there was always an elephant in the room. So eventually I did an interview skills workshop, and they're the most cringy things in the world, but they're phenomenal. In this particular one, they recorded me doing a mock interview and they made me watch it back. It's horrendous. But we went through it, and your man made notes, and he had about 3 A4 pages of notes about what to do and how you could be better. And I was taking it all in, and I was listening to his every word, and I was like, okay, great, I can do this, and then I'll definitely get a job, and that'll be my identity, and everything will be perfect. So he gets to the end of his 3rd page, and he pauses and he goes, Amie, have you ever thought about telling them that you can't see? I went into Canty, and you know that excitement when you get your first job, most of you know it, you're going in, you're going to do it all, and anything they ask you to do, you'll do it, and you'll do it perfectly. So I went into Canty that day, I remember what I was wearing, and I walk up to the door, and there's a buzzer, and I can't really see how to use it, so I pick up my phone and call them, and they have to come out and get me. And I went in, and I was so lucky. I started working with a lady called Terry Fatty. Now this lady is just phenomenal. She was our training, learning and development consultant. What a title. But Terry taught me everything there was to know about inclusive business and how it works and the leaders that we have out there. And then I worked with another lady called Nicola Flanagan who taught me the most powerful thing in the world, and I will never forget it. Very simply one day she just said, Amie, there's no such thing as a silly question. Now despite being in a disability organisation that worked very closely with business, I actually hadn't asked if I could get assistive technology. And it was incredible, and one thing that people are probably sick of me hearing if you've watched any of my speeches before, Deloitte said something very powerful to me once, and I really hope, no matter what you're going through in your life, whether you're disabled or not, I hope that this will always stick with you, especially when you're looking for a job, because it is important. In Deloitte, they believe that you should bring every single bit of you to work, disabled or not, because every bit of you matters. And they're just one of the companies that we were lucky enough to work with. We also have Abbott based here in Ireland. They've done such an incredible job with their employees and making all their policies accessible and inclusive to the best degree that they can, that now they're talking about rolling it out globally. And that was it. I was going and I was going to live my dream and it was going to be amazing. And boy, Vietnam is beautiful. The sounds and the colours and the foods and the people, they're phenomenal. But 6 weeks in, I found myself in Hanoi, and it hit me. I really couldn't see, and I was really far away from home, and I didn't know what to do. I had left my amazing job where I felt so valued, and I felt so lonely. So I packed my bag and I came home, a failure. Something so simple as travelling and teaching, and I couldn't do it. I was broken. So I moved back home with Mom and Dad, and God bless them, they had a tough couple of weeks. I was crying and I was wallowing, and I was really just having a hard time trying to understand why I couldn't see and why I couldn't do everything that everyone else could do around me. I wanted to be like my peers. So I'm crying one day and my mom comes into my room and she sits down and she says, Amie, what's wrong? And it's all the snots and the tears, and I'm really just not attractive at this moment. And I look at her, and my voice is cracking like it is now, because I will never forget this moment. It was like I was shifted back to being 11 in front of that eye specialist's office. And I turned to her and I said, Mom, I'm blind. And in the nicest way she possibly could have said it, she kind of leaned into me and she said, yes, I know. Because we had known for years. We were all very familiar with the fact that I was blind, but I had spent my entire life from modelling to musician and communications professional, fighting this label, I was well able to stand on stage and say, you know what, it's possible, we can do anything. But I was still running from my own disability. And then I rang my fairy godmother, and God bless her, she's gotten a lot of phone calls in my life. And I simply said, Caroline, I'm broken. This trip, which was meant to change my life and give me a whole new perspective on the world, has broken me. I finally realised that I can't see. And she simply said, this is your snot rock. Before Caroline decided to go on her incredible trip across India, she went running one day when she decided that she was going to have to accept that she was visually impaired, and she fell and she hit a rock, and it was also one of those very unattractive moments. But it led to her going to fulfilling a dream. So this is my snot rock, and I'm going to do what I love doing, and that is being a part of changing the world for people with disabilities. And it's doing it in partnership with all the stakeholders that matter, whether you're an educator, an employer, an employee, or a student. You're all involved in this incredible movement, because without all of us, it's not going to happen. Disability for so long has been shoved into the margins of society. It's really uncomfortable. It's like the elephant in the room. You know, for so long we've been shoved away and keeping away, and people have built up this kind of persona, this historical, pity, charity-dependent persona of disability. But that's changing. Disability at the moment is what I'm going to call, it's going through a rebrand. It is changing. From Gossip Girl to Fair City, disability is out there now, and we are changing it. And it's movements like these and supports like Career Pathways that will change it. The partnerships between business and education cannot be emphasised enough. They are an incredible part of changing how our society is going to include people with disabilities. So if I can leave you with anything today, the first thing is to ask for help. Do not be afraid, whether you're disabled or not, we all suck at it. It's okay to ask for help. And the second thing is, when I was in Kanchi, once I got my assistive technology, it turned tasks that I were doing for 50 minutes into tasks that I were doing for 20 minutes. It is reasonable for an employer to put into place accommodations that will make you a better employee. Because remember, they want you to bring your whole self to work, because every bit of you matters. You're leaving something at the door, you're leaving down your company, and they want the best person, disabled or not. So just remember that you can do it, and all of you matters to these people. And the last thing is something that I learned only last year with my friend Cassie in the corner there. I was sitting at home this weekend with my lovely nephew. He's 2. But at the age of 2, you know, he's very curious, and he's always like, what's this, and pointing at a lot of things. So we're sitting at the kitchen table, and he's just after getting a new juice cup, and it's really pretty and there's some design on it. And he pointed at the design and said, Mimi, because he can't quite say Amy, what's this? So I smiled at him, and I prepared to say what I'm very good at saying now, I can't see. Before I could even get there, he picked up the juice cup and shoved it in my face. And I was like, okay, that's a butterfly. But what it reminded me of was something that Cassie told me last year. When we think about careers, you know, when we first meet people, actually we say, oh, what do you do? Or when we meet younger people, it's, oh, what do you want to be? So Cassie and I were talking about this one evening, and you know, there's an awful lot of pressure that comes with something like this. And she simply said, turn it on its head, think differently. It's not always about what you want to do or what you want to be. Sometimes it's simply about what you want to achieve. And I know that every single person in this room, disabled or not, an employer, an educator, a student, every single one of you has more ability and potential and power than you even realise. And it's just there for the taking. So remember, it's not always what you want to do, it's what you want to achieve. Thanks very much.